name is Jordan Guggenheim, and today I'd like to present our quadruple net analysis on Shaw Park. So before we get into the analysis part, I'd like to introduce to you what the park is. The park is located at 906 Ashburn Avenue in College Station, Texas. The park was donated by Dr. Shaw in 2009, which constitutes to about 7.44 acres. The construction of the site began in 2012. And so now that we have a general consensus of what the park is, I'd like to go into what we did with it. We conducted a quadruple net value analysis, which was broken into 4 parts. We have the environmental section, which was done by...
I'm Alyssa Rodriguez.
And then we have social and cultural value done by...
I'm Anna Stanley.
And then we have economic value done by...
Connor Hickson. I'm Philip Pruitt.
And lastly, we have sensory value, which was done by...
I'm Josh McCumber.
I'm Jay Kansel.
And lastly, we have the other team leader, which is...
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Espinosa.
And so and then everyone's going to go into how we did our analysis, but before we get into that, I'd like to introduce our video.
She's as free as blue bonnets in the summer. She's as hot as the Padre Island sun. And most of the time she's as warm and friendly, like the hills that surround Austin. She's as bright as the Dallas sky. She always holds her head up high. She loves the company of her family. She has faith in God's greater plan. She trusts I'm a good man, and that's why I'll always believe. She's like Texas, and she likes me. Her eyes are green like the trees in Nacogdoches. Her teeth are white as cotton in the fall. And when she laughs, you'll always take notice, 'cause her heart's charm will shine right through it all. She's as bright as the Dallas sky. She always holds her head up high. She loves the company of her family. She has faith in God's greater plan. She trusts I'm a good man, and that's why I'll always believe. She's like Texas, and she likes me. Like the weather out in Lubbock, but if you show her love, man, she'll return it. She's as bright as the Dallas sky. She always holds her head up high. She loves the company of her family. She has faith in God's greater plan. She trusts I'm a good man, and that's why I'll always believe. She's like Texas, and she likes me. Oh, she's like Texas, and she likes me.
the environmental value.
Okay. First, we're going to talk about the environmental effects that the park has. The majority of the preserve is 90% of green space. There's a rain garden that helps with water usage, and there's also detention and retention facilities. The plant material on the park benefits the air quality in the area, and there's LED light fixtures that also help the environment too. Now the environmental education. The park provides ecosystem services that inform and benefit the people, used for several researching and teaching services. The program involves play a role in the landscape maintenance, and there's two organizations involved in that as well.
So the sustainable structures that add value to this preserve is, one of them is the prairie, where it's a lot of restoration that happens with the native fauna. So it's bringing back Texas, to its actual roots. And so that's with restoration. And not only is it bringing back plants, it's also bringing back wildlife. And it's also low maintenance. So not a lot of people have to worry about actually maintaining the park, because prairies, again, are low maintenance. They have, wildlife to help limit the growth factor, and then the so-called, controlled wildfires. And what's beneficial about the sustainable structure on the property is that it has extremely long roots, which helps keep the soil compact. Next slide, please. And so not only that, helps the soil keep in place. Here's a quote from from the little display. The root systems of prairies absorb carbon and precipitation, which helps mitigate climate change and runoff, which again is another factor in keeping the soil compact. And here's a close-up of the root systems that can be found from the different native fauna. And another sustainable structure would be the rain gardens, and it has the same, benefits as the prairie, except for something that's different is that it recycles the rainwater. And thank you. So here's the process in which it goes. So it rains, and then you have the soil filter zone, which is basically where you have the organic matter, and that's where the organic matter, the compost from the debris and all the pollutants go away. Because as you see, it says native plants absorb runoff and pollutants. That's where you have the groundwater go to the groundwater recharge, which is the groundwater that will be reused. And yes.
Okay, so for social cultural value, I feel like this has a lot to do with what could be improved with the park, since a lot of it is whether or not people are coming here and why. So first of all, there's no security systems. I feel like since there aren't many components of this park, it might not be as crucial to have security systems, but I feel like implementation of those would make people feel a little more safe in the park. There's no lighting along the paths. On the next slide I'll show you, there's really only 4 light poles on the front of the park. So, I mean, if you're there in the winter past 6:30, it's going to be completely dark. So that's a huge thing. If you want people to stick around, you need to kind of prepare for that. And a lot of it is kind of remote and really isolated. I guess y'all might have remembered whenever we visited, there's paths that kind of go into nowhere like this. So I feel like it's kind of scary if there's no lighting, so it may not be the safest of spots if these things aren't really in place. Also, here's just kind of a diagram or a picture showing the crime in the area. I couldn't really get statistics on before and after the park was implemented, but the little circle is where Shaw Park is located, and then just for reference, this the other red rectangle is campus. So the darker area shows more crime. Okay, so for public access, there aren't any bus stops other than the one at the end of the street. So that could be a factor too in why people aren't coming, because if it's not taking you right to it, you may not even know it's there. So also rush hours along the main roads like Francis and Lincoln, I feel like probably at around 7:30 when people are heading to class, or 4:30 or 6:30 when people are going to dinner or something. It may be there may be some traffic on those roads, but I don't think it's really going through that area. So that kind of has a factor in it too. For land type, there's a lot of green space. As y'all can see, there really isn't much textured paving like this. It makes up about 10% of it, and that's going to be the part that's like handicap friendly, because the rest, if the paths, they're kind of like gravel and overgrown. So for health, the park is pretty clean. It's just kind of minimally maintained. So like they said, it's kind of overgrown. But there are no public restrooms, so like I said, if you want people to stick around in a park and there aren't restrooms, they're going to have to leave eventually. And same goes for water fountains. So like I said, 10% of the surface area is hardscape. We consider this more green area than hardscape just because it really isn't suitable for like handicap stuff and whatnot. So yes, in education, so yeah, they coordinate with 2 of the Texas A&M programs for sure, and along the path also just telling about the park. There's a few, maybe 4 little plaques talking about different stuff in the site, and like they were saying, there's ones explaining the rain gardens. Sorry. So for public visitation, there aren't very many like groups that kind of, I guess, do events here and stuff. A lot of them do have to do with A&M just because, you know, our programs had to do with the actual implementation of this park. So let's see. So like these are an award ceremony for Dr. Kim. Here's a luncheon for the landscape architecture program, and then there's just another example of stuff, people briefly interacting with the park. And I feel like there really aren't ways to find out how many people are here on average during the times of day, because anytime I've actually been over there, there aren't any people in the park, depending on, like, despite the hours. So we couldn't really find much data on that, but yeah.
Right, economic. To start with, the data I'm about to go over, I gathered from Brazos County Appraisal District website, American Fact Finder, and Zillow.com.
The property 906 Ashburn Avenue was built in 1950. It was 1,918 square feet, and the estimated monthly rent was $2,000 a month, and it decreased $380 a month in the last 30 days. And the market value is $322,425, and that's from Zillow.com.
All right, so the property ID for Shop Park is 49697 on the Brazos County District Appraisal website. And so, as you can see, the current land value is leveled out right at $200,000, and it's not moving. And before construction, the appraised tax value was over $300,000, but after it dropped down dramatically. It's begun to rebound a little bit, as you can see on this graph here, and right now it's coming back, or no, that number's wrong. Right now it's at just below $300,000.
Here we took the appraisal value of some adjacent houses around the park, and we took 5 different ones, as you can see in the color, and they all are increasing. And then we also did the same 5 for the land market value. As you can see, they're all still increasing.
Okay, this is all those properties you just saw, plus the ones that weren't colored in and on the northeast side of Ashburn Avenue, averaged together per year. And so they're all. And then this is occupancy from the Census Fact Finder website. The park is in Census District 13.3 on the southwestern side of Ashburn, and so that's the one that's more relevant. So it's pretty steady, around 90. And then the other side, on the northeast side of Ashburn, it's not as high, and it's fluctuating a little bit more.
I had sensory value. Me and my partner split it kind of even as possible. I had visual and touch. Most of them were pictures because sensory value is a lot of experience. There wasn't a whole lot of research to go into it, so I took some photos from Professor Booth and Google Images. So this is Michael Murphy. He was the landscape architect who created the project, actually. He didn't draw this plan. Some guy by the name of Grant Jones did. But there is actually no famous designers in this project. It was actually all student and faculty that came together and created the project. So yeah, this is Michael Murphy. So some of the visual designs that are actually on the property are the pergola, which is obviously these structures where it provides a little bit of shade. The rain garden, which when we got to visit them, it was pretty overgrown, so it wasn't too appealing to the eye. But it is all native to Texas plants, so I'm sure if it had a little bit more maintenance, it could be a lot more visibly attractive. And this is the prairie, the same thing. It was a little bit overgrown. This is what it looks like when it's nice and cleaned out. But these are just some of the visual things. So along Ashburn, it created 301 feet of landscape, or increased landscape, so that was a huge thing. But the main thing for the visual is that it's 90% green space, so it's really just appealing to get to an area where there's not buildings everywhere, and kind of relaxed, kind of soothing for the soul. So for touch, there was 3 shaded areas with seating, that's including benches and tables for picnics and things like that. As Anna had mentioned, there is an ADA ramp, and that all of the pathways are textured, whether it's a brick path, concrete, or gravel. So I don't have a wheelchair, but I'm pretty positive that you could get around pretty much anywhere in the park. There are no water features or fountain. In the proposed plan, they do say that there's supposed to be a pond, a fillable pond. I never saw it, but it's supposedly there, but it's not filled at the moment. So at the moment, there are no visible water features. There's little to no vibrations caused by the surrounding transportation systems. Usually that's caused by underground systems or buses and stuff. Not really much goes by on Ashburn besides cars or bikes. Yeah, like I was saying, there's a little bit less than a mile of textured pavement with brick, concrete, and gravel.
So for a sense of smell, there's no restaurants, food vendors, or trash facilities near the park. There's no adjacent restaurants, and the smell is very limited due to the odoriferous facilities. It's more of a natural scent smell. And there's a Wingstop less than a mile away. For taste, again, there's no food vendors, no culinary activities, no water fountains, and no edible plants. And for sound, there's no concerts, no sound systems. The 2 pergolas, I guess, act as the quiet areas, and then the most noise pollution you get is the muffled sounds from Texas Avenue.
Alright, so just to close it up for our group, after going to the park, understanding, getting to know it, doing the research, we decided that it does have a lot of different elements that can be bettered. And so we kind of just came up with a couple different ways to improve the park. And one of the main ones is just keeping up maintenance, just a little bit more. Even though it's supposed to be like the natural landscape of Texas, it's just a little bit overgrown right now. In the pictures that we put in here, it's like more trimmed down and all that good stuff. And then we decided that there should be maybe a couple more like benches, maybe more seating and pergolas. We also decided that there should be a little bit more outdoor lighting in case people are wanting to use the preserve at night, just because it's kind of a getaway from the city. We decided that it would be a good idea for there to be more activities and events at the preserve, just to get the word out. They can put signs up and banners here on campus or at the high schools nearby, just to get more people using it. But overall, it's a good use of space, and we also think that it's a good place since there's a lot of green landscape. It's kind of a nice getaway.